Joining us now from Deir Bala, Gaza, is Abubaker Abed, contributor at Dropsite News. Abubaker, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me as well.
And let's start. We can put your dispatch up on the screen here. This was in Dropsite yesterday. Incredible first-person report that also gets into a lot of the kind of technical details as well as what's going on. I just want to read a quick portion from it for people so they can get a flavor for it. You write, "I dream of food every day. I imagine our fridge full of meat, lettuce, milk, and cheese. I sometimes talk to myself at night when I'm hungry and have nothing to eat. I dream of when I will be able to sit at a dinner table with my family again. My nephew and niece, both 2 years old, wake up every day crying for an egg. Their mothers don't know what to do. To distract them a bit, we show them videos of eggs on the internet." You also, you write about some anecdotes where a mother breastfeeding a baby, waiting in line for hours for something, and just coming up empty. But your story also gets into the data and the stats about what is getting in. So as you compare the conditions that you've been able to report on over the last several weeks and a month, if you compare those to several months ago, how do those compare? Because the State Department said Israel has 1 month to improve. Did things improve?
Not at all. No, unfortunately, because I've been hearing from the Secretary Blinken for over since the start of this genocide, but he's absolutely been lying, because what we see on the ground is that even humanitarian organizations are not allowed to operate well across the territory. But at the same time, what I need to tell you is that even aid is not distributed well to families. For example, a lot of families here are groaning in pain and groaning in hunger every single day because there is no aid reaching them on a very daily basis, because these people have been displaced. They have no hope at the moment. They don't work. Their families don't have anything to do with this war because they're not a party to this war. So they say that if there are humanitarian organizations working on the ground, so why are we not receiving aid every single day? And I can tell you that there are many families here in particular around me where I am at the moment, and they can tell you that since the start of this genocide, they haven't received any aid boxes at all, literally at all. And let me start with myself. I haven't received anything from the start of this war. But it's very important to tell you that our main objective, our main hope is that this war must end. We don't need aid. We don't need anything. But what we've seen over the last 2 weeks in particular is that people have been calling out the word to bring in some aid, to bring in flows of aid and quite, enhance the humanitarian situation inside Gaza. But instead, the United States has sent more weapons to Israel, more bombs that killed much more families, many more families around Gaza. Here and there, at least over the past 2 weeks, since the start of October, over the last 30 days, we're talking about more than 100 people have been killed in Deir Bala. And yesterday, tents were set ablaze yet once more time, and 2 children were killed, many others were injured. So it's a very apocalyptic situation here.
And I know you're familiar with all of the arguments from people in the West in particular who will say the reason this food isn't getting to the people who need it is because of Hamas, and Hamas is to blame for people. If people are hungry, it's because of Hamas. But then a lot of people will add to that argument that it's a mythical famine, that it's not really happening. Those two positions are sort of mutually exclusive. But what do you say to people who just cannot? What is the way for food to actually get to people who desperately need it? How can countries? Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some sort of that aid warplanes threw aid upon us, and this has been repeated over the course of time. But this is a humiliation. This way and method has killed hundreds of people. There is an aid box thrown over a tent, and it just damaged this tent, and people inside it are killed. But the safest way is to open the 2 crossings that Israel has closed for the past 30 days and since May, because the Rafah crossing has been closed since May. And you mentioned something, Emily, I'm not a political person, but what I've seen on the ground yesterday, because people haven't been aware of that, I wrote that on Twitter, but I deleted it then. I mean, in Al-Maghazi refugee camp in central Gaza, that is so close from me, to me, if things are like what people are thinking about, then why yesterday they are not, for me, they're not Hamas fighters because they are local security forces. That's what we call them. That's how we should call them. Yesterday, they intercepted the work of a group of gangs and militias that tried to hijack an aid truck coming from Karm Abu Salim to central Gaza. So if it is about Hamas, if we talk about that, then why this? Why the local security forces yesterday risked themselves and went out just to intercept this work, this absolutely disgusting and disgraceful work? But we need to know that these people, these gangs, are assigned by the Israeli military to cause chaos and to cause this sort of confusion and turmoil among people and deprive thousands of families trapped in the territory from this very important aid. Because I myself and a lot of families, every single family around Gaza, here in the south, there in the north, they are buying aid. And we buy that by extremely excessive and unimaginable prices. And the prices are skyrocketing. But also it's very important to know that the aid we're getting, either to you, Ryan, to Emily, or the audience, people, look, respect us. We are humans like you. The aid we're getting is absolutely of the lowest quality. They send us absolutely the lowest quality. Talk to people here. They have had many times, like, severe gastroenteritis, hepatitis A virus. And then when they are dispatched to the hospital, we've been talking to doctors from the ground and they told us that it is because of this aid, because this aid is absolutely so bad. It doesn't make any sense. It tastes so bad. So do not allow the flow of aid to get into the territory, into Gaza, the besieged enclave, and then send us or dispatch some sort of very bad quality aid. That is not the case because we are humans. Don't send aid. Like we're accepting the fact to be starved, but do not humiliate us and dehumanize us by sending such so-called aid that you are sending us, which is absolutely non-eatable at all.
Yeah, you write in the article about how much of the flour is completely bug infested, that pet food is becoming something of a staple. But I'm wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on what you were saying about the gangs who have risen up, because there is a lot of suspicion from outside. They say, how is it that the IDF, how is it that Israel is allowing all of these gangs to flourish? They're able to stay. Drones are, flying constantly everywhere. They can see these armed gangs going around, hijacking aid. They attack Hamas if they are able to see them, but yet they allow these gangs to go forward. What is the relationship here?
I mean, there's a very important thing to know, which is that, all what is happening on the ground, because I've been speaking to some merchants from the ground, and what they can tell you is that all of these events, the train of events, is happening near Karm Abu Salim. It's all about that area, which is the crossing through which things are allowed to enter the strip. But what happened here is that the Israeli military is sending quadcopters and drones to, for surveillance tasks and to watch over what is happening nearby. And then when they say, because they mark their gangs and they're assigned to gangs and militias. So if they see one, apart from their gangs, they directly upon this group of people, for example, if they are local security forces, because there's a difference between the resistance fighters who are Hamas fighters for people who are fighting the Israeli military, and a difference between the local security forces. The local security forces are absolutely civilians. They have nothing to do with Hamas. So they are not Hamas to bomb them and kill them. So that is what is really happening. Relationship is that we've seen here in Deir al-Balah myself that a group of people in the southwest of the camp have been armed by the Israeli military and weapons and etc. So when you talk about it, Hamas doesn't have the ability to have such weapons. So you can expect that these people are causing such a great deal of panic among people. Even that during the night hours, some people are getting out of their houses and they are then, held at gunpoint by these gangs, and they are threatened just like to give everything they have. So a lot of people have gone through such an experience because of these gangs who have created such chaos. And a lot of people have lost many things. Like, for example, if a merchant has a big amount of money going out to bring some goods or something, and of course, there are unimaginable prices. And then they have such money. And then those gangs signed by the Israeli military and the Israeli army are going to face them, confront them, and take all this money from them under the threat of gunfire and, killing them.
Yeah, Israeli politicians have talked about the strategy of propping up and arming gangs in order to kind of sow dissension inside of Gaza and to undermine Hamas. Is that people's understanding of what's going on?
I mean, they already know, but it's just because that, like, there's a lot of chaos inside the Turkey, so we don't know where it does go. I'm very sorry, but people have to know, to understand even that those gangs, it is very surprising and shocking, but we've seen this on the ground, which is those gangs sometimes belong to the humanitarian organizations working on the ground. So, for example, UNRWA or World Central Kitchen, I'm not going to say, like, I'm saying for example, but I've seen people who are responsible for this sort of acts in the territory, stealing and hijacking aid trucks. They belong to those humanitarian organizations. I've been speaking to people outside, like the audience, I'm telling them all the time that the humanitarian organizations do not operate well, not only because they are under the threat of the Israeli military, no, because most of them, like some of them inside, are responsible, are liable, and they are the mastermind of these acts of hijacking and etc. So people understand and know that these humanitarian organizations are also responsible for what they are going through, and the starvation forced upon them. But the main reason we need to know that all of this has been caused by the Israeli military. So there is nothing to do with the civilians or the local security forces. The local security forces are doing their very best. They are exerting strenuous efforts to secure the flow of aid and the entry of aid to all people around Gaza, but Israel simply bombs them. So that's what is really happening on the ground. And people have to also realize the fact that there's like signing people, and we are in a time that people would easily give up their principles and their greed just to find some sort of living and try to resist amid such incredibly harsh circumstances. So they are easily bamboozled and deceived and persuaded by the Israeli army to work within such a very bad and immoral way.
Rain, should we play the State Department clip?
Yeah, let's roll. I wanted to get your response to the State Department spokesperson, Vedant Patel. Yesterday was the deadline for Israel. The deadline set by the United States and metrics set by the United States. That deadline hit yesterday. And here's how the State Department responded. I want to get some of your response to it. Let's roll Vedant Patel. This is E5.
Why did you bother to put in 350 trucks a day if it doesn't matter?
I'm not going to speak to the...
I mean, you keep saying you're not going to speak to specific metrics, but you guys are the ones that made those specific. We didn't. We didn't give the Israelis 30 days to do all this stuff. You guys did. And now those 30 days are up. And as you've heard from everyone so far, and these aid groups that came out last night, they haven't met them. And all of a sudden you say that the metrics that you put out don't matter.
I had never said that they don't matter. What I said was...
You said rabbit hole. I mean, these are metrics exactly like you put out. It's not a rabbit hole.
Meaning I don't want to take up time getting into a specific tit for tat on like truck numbers.
What's your response to that exchange between Matt Lee?
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that yesterday. I saw it. But it's already, as I told you, that they are just manufacturing the genocide in Gaza. They are liable for every brutal act of killing children, disempaling them and dismembering them, and they are not allowing any sort of it to get it. They're just lying to people all around, because everyone here knows, like from the ground, a child, tell them, like I can tell you that my nephews and nieces who haven't exceeded 5 years old, they can tell you that the United States is killing us, because they have that sort of knowledge right now of what the United States is about. Because it's really important to know that the United States is co-perpetrating the genocide in Gaza. And you can see right now how many, like there is a full generation of amputees in the street. You can go out in any of the seasons in Gaza, either in the south and the north, and you can see at least 2 to 3 people amputated. And this is a result and a symptom of this Israeli as American genocide happening on the ground. So the United States have never, ever wanted peace. And I'm not a political person yet once again, but what I can tell you that the United States have never wanted peace, and it's responsible for every conflict that is happening across the globe, even in Ukraine, even in Sudan, because they are army, the RSF, that is responsible for the genocide in Sudan. So it's the United States. The United States have never wanted peace, and it will continue supporting and funding the genocide in Gaza and arming Israel, because it's Israel, it's their friend, it's their, ally, it's their, staunchest, friend, etc. But again, if the United States ever cared about us, this would end from a very, very call from Biden in the beginning of week of this war. It was simply put, Hamas told the fighters, the resistance, as we call it, told the Israeli military that we could exchange prisoners. And what we know so far is that after a week, the Israeli army has killed more than 5,000 people in Gaza. So this sort of retaliation is this is more of a disproportionate response to what Hamas did on October the 7th. Okay? But then when things were put and the conditions were put by Hamas and resistant fighters here, the Israeli military said no. And they put one condition, which is not to enter Gaza, not to invade Gaza and cause this sort of havoc upon the city. But then Israel said no. Biden could change things and could force Israel not to go ahead with its annexation and its cleansing plan in the besieged enclave. But again, Biden wants the war, wants to erase Gaza because it's getting benefits from occupying a land, a very tiny strip that is full of, many resources like gas, etc. Because you can see the pier there that has been built many months ago. It's used because people are expecting right now, local experts are expecting, the geographic, experts are expecting that this pier will be turned into a port, a seaport, to allow the Israeli military or the Israelis to do, this sort of commercial transfers between other countries, between Europe and Asia, because Gaza is in Asia. So you can see that, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say this, we're very hopeful people. And I'm just hopeful. I'm only 21 years old, but I can tell you, I've promised myself that I will emerge from this with hope. Again, I'm not a political person, but what is really happening is first and foremost and always is perpetrated by the US. Israel could not even stay 1 month in Gaza without the support of the United States.
And actually, that might be a good opening here to roll E4, which is a clip of Code Pink activists, anti-war activists here in the United States some months ago approaching Senator Marco Rubio about his support for the war in Gaza. And this is obviously, as Marco Rubio now, this was before, but now is being considered for a Secretary of State role here in the United States. So let's go ahead and roll E4, Marco Rubio's response to the Code Pink activists in the Senate hallway.
Senator Rubio, will you call for a ceasefire?
No, I will not.
Gaza?
On the contrary.
Senator Rubio,
are you filming it?
Wait,
so I want you guys to get this. I want them to destroy every element of Hamas they can get their hands on. These people are vicious animals who did horrifying crimes. And I hope you guys post that.
And what about the civilians that are being killed every day?
Hamas should stop hiding behind civilians, putting civilians in the way. Hamas knew that this was going to lead to this. So Hamas should stop building their military installations underneath hospitals.
So you don't care that 15,000 have died? You don't care about the babies that are being killed every day?
I think it's horrifying. I think it's terrible, and I think Hamas is 100% to blame.
So that's obviously an ascendant view in the incoming Trump administration. And
I'm so
very representative. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
I'm so fed up with this claim that it's all about Hamas. It's all about what is happening. For example, I'm not Hamas. I have no connection with Hamas. My family doesn't have any relationship with any Hamas members. Okay? then why am I being subjected to brutal and sheer and pure brutality and barbarism and starvation? Then this is the question. A lot of families, the Gaza Health Ministry has just announced today that Israel has completely wiped out more than 4,500 families with no survivors. Tell me, among the death toll are more than 17,000 children. Most of them are under 5 years old. What have they got to do with Hamas? I mean, it's utterly despicable and utterly disgusting that people are still believing in these things. And again, the Israeli military is forcing the military service upon all those who have exceeded 18 years old in their colony. I'm not going to say territory, but here you have the choice. You never, ever, Hamas is going to tell you that you're obliged to belong to us. Never, ever. And we have to know that there are more than four political parties in Gaza. So where is Hamas in this equation that people are still claiming, talking about, that we can justify the murder of more than 17,000 children, 10,000 women? I mean, look, I'm truly fed up with that. Like, to the level that even some journalists from the Times, the Sunday Times in the UK, and other places like The Guardian have asked me about this sort of, things that about Hamas and about others. But already we have nothing to do with that. Like a lot of people here, you're talking about that less than 40,000 Hamas fighters, okay? So how many families are in Gaza? Much more, many more than that. You're talking about more than 200,000 families. Then why have around 5,000 families been wiped out with no survivors? Like, for example, I'm going to give you an example. Like, Dr. Maysar Reyes, whose name went viral when he was killed along with his wife in Gaza City. He was a Chevening scholar. And he was killed, brutally killed in cold blood, along with his entire family. And they are still under the rug, by the way. A lot of people are still under the rug. Like, my neighbor's child was bombed, like, November last year. Today, 10 days later from today, it will mark a year. It will mark a year that from the time he was bombed, and he's still under rubble for 1 year, one whole year. He's 5 years old. He is a disabled child, and then tell me, what has he got to do with Hamas? Look, it's utterly irritating, and I don't know. Like, if you want to justify it, again, it's very important, Ryan and Millie, to be a human before being a journalist. If you're not a human, then don't be a journalist. Like, it's very simple as that. There is a full people that is being exterminated at the moment. They have nothing to do with Hamas, okay? And don't tell me that Hamas hides behind civilians, because, look, I'm not trying to say anything about this, but of course, like, for me, I don't see anyone, like, around them, and I don't know them. Just to justify the killing of, many people, many innocent lives. Like, I've lost my entire aunt's family. Like, I mean, what have I to do with that? I don't know what I can tell you, but it's,
and that's
justifying this is.
Yeah, and the man,
go ahead.
that man is reported to be headed to become Secretary of State to replace Antony Blinken. What has been the reaction among people in Deir al-Balah or others that you've spoken to in Gaza to the Trump victory in the election? Do people expect it to get worse, to stay the same? What's the response?
That's a very good question. Yes, I wanted you to ask me this because, like, they have the same opinion of Trump. He's a genocidal war criminal, and that one Biden is a genocidal war criminal. And we have no hope at all in Trump to upend the current situation at all. Like, we don't have anything. We need to remember that Trump, when he was the president of the United States, he announced and declared Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And he is responsible for the process of normalization with Arab countries with Israel. So this is something to remember, that he is a cause for what is happening. Because I'm sure if he didn't do that, Arab countries in such a very difficult time and in the face of this sort of extreme adversity, they would really move and act and intervene to stop what is happening on the ground. But I can tell you that even we don't know about the politics, but we have heard Trump has does just have a bad reputation among people in Gaza. So he doesn't have any good thing to do with Gaza, and people know and understand, realize that Trump will worsen the situation inside the besieged enclave, and that he will kill and be responsible for another renewed version of the genocide that Joe Biden started on October the 7th of last year.
And just, I'm curious on a personal level, if you don't mind me asking. It's mid-afternoon there now in Gaza. What have you eaten so far today? And what is your hope for what you might have before the day is over?
You can see how the electricity was cut off. So this is one of the main things that is happening right now in Gaza. So it's very expected that I'm talking to you. You are still in the light, and I'm hoping, and I'm like a human being. I'm a human being. I'm supposed to be a human being, and I'm just wishing, hoping for a day instead of you, for a moment, give me a moment of your life, of your worst day to me, so that I can feel at least that I'm a human. But what we've eaten so far is that, again, it's just some loaves of bread. You have some loaves of bread, if you have it even, and they are made by bug-infested flour, of course, because there is no flour that has been allowed to enter the strip. But at the same time, we have, as I wrote in this piece, we have some sat at this local plate and with some olive oil. So that's what we eat every single day, and it's just one time. So we are making a process here. We're making a schedule here. We minimize things. So everyone has a portion. Everyone has a pot to eat every single day. So not eat, all day, or you cannot eat all day. There's no way that you can eat all day. No, It's just a small portion, a small part that you can eat all day, because you want to maintain what you already have at your home. You want to maintain that. So if you eat a little bit more than what is expected, then what is a loaf of bread or something, then you will run out of food. And this is something we want to try to, we want to avoid as people here in Gaza. But as a 21-year-old person, this is not the first war I've been through. The first five wars in Gaza have been many genocides. Now, this is the biggest genocide I've been through. But I can tell you that I have hope. I have hope in people like you. They continue protesting and tackling the government every single day. And I hope that things will change, because I will never, and I can never lose hope at all, because I've been instilled into that. The hope is to live, no matter what circumstances are inflicted upon you, no matter what hell is inflicted upon you. We're going to be, and I'm telling you from here, I don't know if I'm going to survive this brutality, this hellish time. But I can tell you that if I survive this, inshallah, which I'm very hopeful about, we're going to be the leaders of a free world. All this young generation has been educated during this time about Palestine, about the double standards of the Western community, the hypocrisy of an entire Western media outlet, channel, and network. They will lead the prosperity of this free world. There will be a free world led by us. So no matter what is happening, literally, I'm going to see hope. I'm going to breathe hope, and I have everything to keep smiling, no matter what happens and no matter what is happening.
Well, I hope that for you, Abubaker, and I know that you've talked about wanting to return to sports journalism, which was your love before you were kind of requisitioned into what you've been doing for the past year. I just want to thank you for you know, sharing these stories and this perspective with us, and give you our very best from everybody here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was really important and very interesting to talk to you. But again, I just want to tell you one thing in the end. It is about you that will lead this change. We hope in you, and please never, ever think about leaving us alone, because you are the reflection of our hope. And I'm 100% confident, and I'm proud of your work, Ryan, of your work, Emily. It is your responsibility to lead that exchange, and that exchange should be marked by your names. And we're going to make this word free from the United States. That must be free from the United States. Administration, of course, not its people.
Yeah,
all the best.
We promise we will. And everybody watching should check out Abubaker's latest article over at dropsitenews.com. Just a very, very powerful dispatch. Thank you for what you do. And we promise we'll keep it up.
Inshallah. Bye-bye. All the best.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.